Welcome to EPG Pathshala. I am Dr. Neeru Tandon, Department of English, VSST College, Kanpur. We are discussing paper on linguistics. This module number 34 on the topic Stylistics has been written by Ms. Safia Begum, University of Hyderabad. This module will introduce you to stylistics, a branch of applied linguistics. In this module, you will first learn the varied meanings and definitions of a style. Later, you will find the meaning and definitions of stylistics. Further, you will come to know about the emergence of stylistics as a separate literary theory. You will also find brief explanation of various theoretical concepts that paved the way for the origin of stylistics. Later, you will be introduced to some of the major concepts of stylistics like foregrounding and deviation, etc., along with some examples. After reading this module, you will be able to say meaning of a style in creative expression, especially writing. Perhaps you may also have your definition of a style. More importantly, you will be able to say what does stylistics mean and what it does. Further, you will be able to identify the stylistic devices like foregrounding and deviations in any literary writing. Now first let us understand what is style. What do we mean by the term style? You know, the term style and stylistics sounds similar. Yes, they have a very close connection. So to understand the meaning of stylistics, we will first delve into the meaning of the word style. Merriam-Webster dictionary defines style as, I quote, a distinctive manner of expression as in writing or speech, or a distinctive manner or custom of behaving or conducting oneself, or a peculiar mode of living, or a particular manner or technique by which something is done, created, or performed, unquote. This definition shows very clearly that whenever we talk about style is not a particular matter that you can relate with. Its area is very wide, its gamut is very wide. It may be something that is written or spoken, or it may be some customs, some behavioral procedures, or the way you conduct yourself without saying anything, or a particular mode of living also comes under the word style. So it may be a technique, or it may be a manner by which you do something, you create something, or you perform something. That is your style. Now when we come to stylistics, so style means, as I told you, a particular way of doing things, be it anything. It helps us to understand the wide application of the term and its different meaning in different contexts. However, for us, the first definition may be a distinctive manner of expression of a style is important. In writing, style means a way of expression, but there are different understanding of it as well. According to Goethe, I quote, generally speaking, an author's style is a faithful copy of his mind. If you would write a lucid style, let there first be light in your mind. And if you would write a grand style, you ought to have a grand character, unquote. For Buffon, I quote, style is a man's own. It is part of his nature. The style is the man himself, unquote. Jonathan Swift opines that proper words in proper places make the true definition of style, unquote. In the same way, Flaubert says, I quote, one arrives at style only with atrocious effort, with fanatical and devoted stubbornness, unquote. Edward Gibbon holds that the style of an author should be the image of his mind, but the choice and command of language is the fruit of exercise, unquote. Through all these definitions, we can have an idea about the matter that is known as style, especially related with a writer's style. Whenever there is an author is known by his style, by his prose style, poetic style, dramatic style, whatever he writes. So his style is something that bears his name. So through all these definitions, we have reached to a conclusion that style has got different definitions. Style has got different definitions and different connotations. Now one can observe that for some writers like Goethe, style is an image of writer's mind and his character. For Buffon, style is man himself, whereas for Swift it is the arrangement of words. Flaubert defines style in terms of a skill that can be achieved if someone consciously put an effort to learn it. Nevertheless, style is a significant feature of writing that helps in presenting one's own feelings, thoughts, emotions, and so on. As there are different definitions of style, there are various styles of writings, or writers have their own styles of writing. The important point for a reader is to understand the message or meaning the writer is trying to convey through his or her peculiar style. Now, how do we arrive at meaning based on style? That's a question in front of us. In this situation, it is stylistic that helps one to analyze a literary piece and derive meaning out of it. Now, what is the meaning of stylistics? According to David Crystal, stylistics is a branch of linguistics which studies the feature of situationally distinctive uses of language and tries to establish principles capable of accounting for the particular choices made by individual and social groups in their use of language. Unquote. Peter Barry said, I quote, "Stylistics is a critical approach which uses the methods and findings of the science of linguistics in the analysis of literary texts. By linguistics, here is meant the scientific study of language and structures rather than the learning of individual languages." Unquote. As stylistics is one of the branches of linguistics like psycholinguistics, sociolinguistics, it applies the insights of linguistics to arrive at an interpretation of a literary text. Hence, in specific terms, stylistic means a scientific way of examining, interpreting the language of a literary text. Unlike literary criticism, where focus remains not only on the language but on various aspects like history and culture of a literary text, biography of an author, so on and so forth to arrive at the interpretation of a literary text. However, stylistics does this by the simple means of linguistic techniques. It means stylistics claims to be an objective method of interpretation as it does not consider history, cultural background of a literary text, or biography of an author. At this stage, it is necessary to know more about stylistics and its association with other theories and concepts. Now, stylistics traces its origin in the subject of antiquity, that is rhetoric, R-H-E-T-O-R-I-C. That is very important to remember, that rhetoric was one of the three subjects of ancient Greeks. The other two subjects were logic and grammar. Initially, rhetoric was an art of persuasion through speech, but later on, it also came to mean all forms of eloquence along with writing. Hence, there is a close connection between rhetoric and stylistics. Stylistics as a proper literary theory as we know it today emerged in 20th century. It is the linguistics theory that majorly developed in 20th century laid the foundation of stylistics. As I have already told you, it is part of the applied linguistics. Saussure's major concepts, diachronic and synchronic, language, lang and parole, signifier and signified, Meanings are relational, and relationship between syntagmatic and paradigmatic. These are various important concepts as far as stylistics is concerned. We should not forget the Russian formalism also, that defamiliarization concept and distinction between story and plot and communication theory. Then structuralism as an intellectual movement should be consulted as well. All these eminent scholars' works and movement paved the way for the emergence of stylistics. It was in late 1950s, a number of scholarly works began to apply linguistics for the interpretation of literary works, in other words, stylistics. It began with a famous conference on style held at Indiana University in 1958. The proceedings of this particular conference were published as the book known as Style in Language, and it was edited by Thomas A. Sebeok, and Linguistics and Literary Style, edited by Donald C. Freeman. Then came Essays on Style and Languages and the Language of Literature by Roger Fowler. Now, the normal question comes in our mind: what does this stylistics do? Now, let me answer this, that stylistic analysis is an objective and scientific commentary upon a literary text which is based on concrete, quantifiable data and applied in a systematic way. Further, it emphasizes on the connections between literary and everyday languages. It uses concepts of linguistics such as transitivity, under-lexicalization, collocation and cohesion, so on and so forth. All of them are the foregrounding devices. Now, what is foregrounding? Oxford Online Dictionary defines foreground as the part of a view that is nearest to the observer, especially in a picture or photograph. And as a verb, it means to make the most prominent or important feature, unquote. Hence, foreground means to bring something into one's attention by placing it in front and make it more prominent. It is generally used as a technique to highlight or underline the meaning of something in an artistic work, as in photography, paintings, literature, etc. It is done to attract the attention of the readers. Moreover, foregrounding is used to shift the attention of the reader from what is said to how it is said. In systematic functional linguistics, foregrounding refers to a prominent portion of a text that contributes to the total meaning. Jan Mukarovsky pioneered the concept of foregrounding in Russian, and it is rendered into English as foregrounding. Foregrounding, as mentioned above, refers to various effects of a style that a writer uses to highlight or shock or to drag the attention of readers towards it. It could be at phonetic level, like through alliteration, rhyme, etc., or at the grammatical level by using inversion, ellipsis, etc., or even at the semantic level by employing metaphor, irony, etc., etc. Further, he notes that foregrounding exists everywhere, like in oral discourse, journalistic writing, so on and so forth. However, he says, in literature it is more organized and structured and in a hierarchical manner, as in one aspect of writing or device dominates the other. There are different types of foregrounding techniques used in literature. The following are some of the foregrounding devices. Number 1 is deviation. In linguistic terms, deviation means to move away from the language rules. Another name of deviation in the traditional sense of meaning is the poetic license. Poets and writers, they seem to have this license to deviate from normal usage of language. On the other hand, a common native language user adheres or obeys the conventional language rules. However, deviation is an important foregrounding device through which writers create or have a desired effect on their readers. The following are some of the language deviation techniques widely employed by the writers. Graphological deviation. It means the moving away from the conventional form of arranging letters into words and words into lines, for example in poetry, in verse, and into sentences, maybe in prose or verse. For example, see the poem E. Cummings. This is the poem that is on your screen. The moment we look at it, the first question would be, is this a poem? Or what kind of a poem is it? If we look at it carefully for 1 or 2 minutes, we will be able to see the only complete word in it is one. If we look at it once again, then appears the word leaf in it. Then we will see the leaf now falls. Further, we will see there is a bracket. If we remove that bracket and the words written in it, then we will see the word loneliness. The poem, through the symbol of falling leaf, presents the idea of loneliness. So in this way, it gives you a different style, not common. It gives you something speculative. It gives you some idea that how you can just understand the idea of the poet conveyed through this particular poem. Then we have orthographic deviation. There is another interesting deviation device called orthographic deviation, and which means departure from the conventional form of spelling. For example, KAR car instead of CAR car, or FOTO photo instead of PHOTO photo, as we sometimes find it in the shops, signing boards, especially in remote areas. We just don't take it into consideration, considering that these people are not educated and they don't know how to spell it, and the way they are speaking, they write it. But it is not a conscious decision to attract the people's attention. However, they do attract our attention and make us laugh. Similarly, we find such deviation in creative writing as well. Mostly in poems we find such things. Now you see this, good luck, we'll miss you. Now you see good luck, this K is missing. Instead we have LUC, luck, good luck. We'll means not pahiya, but it is we will miss. You is not YOU, it is YEW. Even then we can read it, and it attracts our attention as well. It is the style of the writer. So good luck, we'll miss you. This we will becomes we'll. Of course, a writer deviates not just to attract the attention of his or her readers, but his or her linguistic deviation is a conscious effort that points at something meaningful. It also helps in comprehending overall meaning of literary piece. For example, William Blake's poem, you must have not forgotten it, The Tiger. In it, Blake uses the spelling of TIGER, tiger, as the tiger, TYGER. Tiger was indeed an older spelling, but even by Blake's time, the modern spelling tiger had been standardized. And so the poet was making a deliberate departure from the modern spelling, and he was using the older version, that is TYGER. You see the poem in front of you, the tiger. Tiger, tiger, burning bright in the forest of the night. So the older spelling suggests an animal that is different, more mysterious. The letter Y in the middle also may represent a longer vowel or diphthong. In one of the stories of A. Milne, the boy calls his pet tiger Tigger, 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 pronounced to rhyme with snigger, which takes away all terror from the animal. Blake's deviant spelling acquires significance in the context of the entire poem, where the animal is represented as an object of awe, terror, wonder, and mystery. Thus, in artistic works, every linguistic deviation that is made holds some significance. Another word to be discussed is under-lexicalization. It is a term invented by Fowler. It refers to cases where there is a lack of an adequate set of words to express specific concepts. For example, for a particular word like handle, we do not say handle, rather use the word the holding thing. Cohesion. Cohesion means sticking together. Here, sentences that are joined into a single continuous utterances are known as cohesion. Syntactically or grammatically, they are individual sentences. However, if they are put together side by side, they make sense, otherwise not. In the absence of cohesion, they read awkward. For example, this is Anita, Anita is my friend, Anita and I go to school together. The awkward sentences or repetition of proper noun is eliminated by using pronoun. In linguistic terminology, it is called pronominalization. If the proper noun is removed from the sentences, then they will be like this. This is Anita, she is my friend, we go to school together. This sounds so normal, so natural. So we can see that now these sentences are in cohesion. They make more sense and have a flow. Thus, we had seen that stylistics is a literary theory that uses linguistic theories and devices to analyze a literary writing, either prose or poetry. Apart from this, there are various other devices that stylistics uses, like deviation in punctuation, morphological deviation, syntactic deviation, metaphor as deviant, collocation, semantic deviation, repetition, phonological repetition, lexical repetition, syntactic repetition, and parallelism. In this module, you have seen that what is stylistics. You have understood with the help of the style that the style and stylistics are concerned and they are interconnected. So whenever we talk about a style and the way that a style is presented is known as a stylistic. In a simple way, you can understand it. And whenever we just consider and just explain that stylistic portion, we come to know about various deviations, how the style is made different, how a writer, maybe a poet or a novelist, how he just improves upon his writing, how he just presents his own writing style in his own way by deviation or by changing the spelling or through various other techniques discussed in this module. So it is interesting to know why a writer writes like that. With the help of these stylistics, we can explain that in detail. Thank you for visiting EPG Pathshala.